think pound for pound, he was the greatest of everyone that stepped in the ring. Ray Robinson was the best fighter that ever stepped in the ring because he could punch. He used to back away from him when he could knock out a left hook. So generally a fighter who backs away from someone can't hurt you. But Robinson, he could hurt you backing away from him, same as coming in and tell you. Oh, I saw him at his best, and he was the best fighter that ever lived, pound for pound.
A great fighter is somebody that could always come back from the brink of destruction, and having over 202 fights, at least 80 or 90 of those fights, he's at the brink of destruction, almost losing, and coming back to win. And I mean, that shows the character.
I thought he was a great fighter. A great fighter. I loved his combinations and his speed, the way he operated. I admired the way Sugar Ray Robinson threw his combinations. Of all the champions I have viewed, I've never seen a champion quite as determined as he. I've never seen a fighter throw punches so short that does so much damage.
When they say Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest fighter pound for pound, meaning that I imagine if he was a heavyweight fighting the same style, he'd be the greatest. I would have to admit, I would have to say yes. I have his fight films, I've watched him. That man was beautiful. Timing, speed, reflexes, rhythm, his body, everything was beautiful. I say I'm the greatest heavyweight of all times, but pound for pound, I still say Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest of all times.
He was the greatest. Scientific. He was a distant fighter, he was a half-distant fighter, he was an in-fighter, he was smart, he was thinking, he was backed with head. It was wonderful to see to fight him, you know.
Robinson, a finely tooled, slick artist, smart, knew every punch in the book. Man, Robinson, when he had a guy hurt, adios. He really took him out.
This guy was like a Vaseline. He was slipping all over the ring. You couldn't hit him. A beautiful guy, beautiful fighter. I always thought I'd make him pound for pound one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. And it was my pleasure getting knocked out that night from Mr. Robinson.
And there goes his mouthpiece, and Graziano hits the canvas.
I think Robinson was the epitome of a boxing master similar to Benny Leonard. Only Benny couldn't punch, but Robinson could punch. See, there's a difference. He's a combination boxer-puncher. He was a great fighter. He was. Great fighter. Great fighter.
Fulmer pressing forward. A choking left hook by Robinson, and Gene Fulmer crashes to the canvas. The referee picks up the count as Gene finds the ring. It's over.
Robinson was over in the other corner jumping up and down. I told my manager, how come Robinson's doing exercise between rounds? And he said, he's not doing exercise between rounds. He just won. He said they counted 10.
And I knew that it had to be on me because I hadn't heard any of it.
That was the first time in my life that I'd ever been knocked out, and the last time.
Sugar Ray Robinson, I have seen several times, and he's about the best boxer I ever seen. He was everything. He was fast, he had a good left hand, and every punch he threw away was a knockout punch.
He was a guy that did so many things great. I think the things that stand out to me, his hand speed, his power on either side of the plate. He could punch like heck with either hand, and he put punches together. And one other thing, he had a great chin. People forget because they hear the name Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar. They think about just pure blinding ability. What a chin.
You'd have a picnic today with what's around, including Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. They wouldn't be strong enough for him. One thing about this guy, he had guts. Now, in the 11th round, which was considered the round of the year, I hit him with, they say, 34 straight punches. And I had him up against the ropes. And he come back that next round and kicked the hell out of me.
Oh, Sugar Ray Robinson was a great boxer, great puncher, smart. He knew how to move. He knew how to count. He did everything and did it well. Sugar Ray, I think, is one of the all-time greats.
Don't forget, the guy had over 200 fights. He fought for 25 years. He's a masterful boxer, terrific puncher, and he was just a great, great competitor.
Shoot at a guy, and he's pretty quick. And he was the type of guy that, you know, would dance around, move around. He was real flashy. And knowing the guy in real life, you know what I mean, as a person while as of now he's retired, I think he's a swell guy. He's really a great guy, you know.
Hector Camacho, Ray Mancini, some of the other bigger fighters today. How would Sugar Ray Robinson fare against these guys?
Come on, ain't no match with him and those guys. It's like taking bread from a baby with those guys. Sugar's the great. He's the great. He was the greatest, and he's still the greatest.
Tunney, a magnificent ring general, now 80 years old, remarked that Ray Robinson was perhaps the finest boxer he had ever seen. Dempsey, one of the hardest punchers of all time, has seen every great fighter from the roaring 20s to the present. At 83, Jack declares that Ray Robinson, pound for pound, is the greatest combination puncher he has ever seen.
There's only one word to describe Sugar Ray Robinson, and that's class. I remember the amazing, blazing combinations that Sugar Ray Robinson threw. There was only one Sugar Ray Robinson. Had that special electricity about him. There's never been anyone like him before or since.